So now that Radu has shared with us his personal experience and his research as well, we're moving on to the next presentation. So today we're going to have a joint presentation from Cristian, who you heard earlier in the opening of DefCamp 2021, and Andrei Bozeanu, another longtime community member as well. They are going to talk about one of the things that DeCaneas has developed. DeCaneas is part of the Orange Fab Accelerator. They've presented in the past at DefCamp, and they're always kind of eager to share what they're building so that others can learn from them, so that others can use their tech and advance their own journeys as well. So gentlemen, I'm very happy to have you here this morning. I am excited for your presentation. Everyone who's watching, be sure to drop your questions so we can pick them up after the presentation. And I hope you'll enjoy this. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Anna. Hello back. I'm back with my colleagues, Andrei. I will share the slide. Just confirm me that you see the material.
Yes, it is on.
Good. I will put okay. So today we are going to speak about deceptive operations and Honeynet design. And here I will be supported by Andrei Bozeanu, which is the CEO and founder of DeCaneas, as you mentioned, Andra, part of our Orange Fab Accelerator that we introduced on Romania market in 2017, and through which we are collaborating with several other security startups that you will probably see in the tomorrow panels. So, deceptive operations and Honeynet design. Why is this topic so important? Not to forget that I will also mention that jointly with DeCaneas, Orange Business Services is supporting the Deceptive Ops challenge, part of the Hacking Village. So, in the introduction today, early on, I mentioned about the Business Internet Security Report supported by, coming from Orange Business Services. This is the 4th edition. Each year in DefCamp event, we are coming and we are disclosing information from the previous year, but also we are also making some predictions for the next year. This year we are doing the same. Here you just have a snapshot from the report, which I'm inviting you to download from our website, threatmap.eu or threatmap.ro, or you can directly receiving if you are entering in the Orange booth in the DefCamp virtual scene. Some snapshots from the 2021 highlights. As you can see, ransomware again had its big comeback, and unfortunately it's affecting a lot of businesses, small but also large businesses. We saw before in the presentation before the phishing, which is still one of the principal vectors for compromising and one of the, let's say, the compromise for most of the type of the threats. But also DDoS, and especially targeting IoT devices. So these are just snapshots. Please go download the reports and go through it. And also you'll see the predictions for 2022. In the same report, you will see this kind of information coming from our local market, informations which are referring to the period starting from Q4 2020 until the end of Q3 2021. This is the Business Internet Security platform and services, the managed services that Orange Business Services is offering since a while to our customers in Romania. And this is available for medium but also for large companies. And it analyzes more than 8 million security threats each month. This is coming, all these threats are coming from our customers' infrastructure. We practically gather and we are anonymizing this relevant data from different industries and different verticals. Maybe some of the most representative are coming from the transportation, from energy, but also public services, retail. And here you see the split on threats by business vertical. in this period, particularly in this period, with the retail being the most affected, comparing with the last year, with the previous report, where we had the transportation as the most affected business vertical. If we are speaking about regions, so the split per regions, Moldova is the most affected, and here we have also the split between the cities, and normally Bucharest as size is the most affected, but then it's coming Iași and also Timișoara. Also in terms of the threats by the distribution by type, so ransomware, phishing, botnet, DDoS, and others. So these are the information that we are generating from our customer infrastructure in an anonymized way. It's very helpful for understanding the impact on the different verticals and how can we protect, why we should protect, and of course that part of our infrastructure, so the infrastructure which is generating this information. Here we are speaking about next generation firewalls, web and email, security gateways, DDoS mitigation systems, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, but also we are correlating several security audits which we are conducting for different customers. And this then the information are also used coming from our Infra AI big data analytics tool developed in-house, and also where we are collaborating with another cybersecurity startup that will join tomorrow panels. And we do hope that this kind of information to at least to determine our partners, our customers in Romania, maybe to think about protecting themselves, and at least to go and to discuss with a cybersecurity expert. So we have a big community here. So I'm also trying here to raise the flag. And also it's the need to have valuable threat intel information in order to protect specifically this kind of business verticals and sectors. And not especially that in terms of the landscape, the new technologies, and here I will refer particularly to the technologies we are very familiar, such as virtualization, such as the 5G, which we know that we are commercially operating in Romania since 2019. So the continuously changing threat landscape, new technologies which are bringing new vulnerabilities, new threat actors and new threats. This is practical. These are the ingredients for us to come with additional value, to come with additional partners, with solutions that can be relevant for our customers from the different verticals. And here, the KNS solution, which is represented today by Andrei, it's a perfect match for us. And you will see the presentation of Andrei, how can this solution help in maybe identifying and protecting some of the most valuable assets in the relevant business sectors. Now I'm coming to the Hacking Village Deceptive Ops Challenge that is running since a couple of days, and still you have time to go and to compete and maybe to win the prizes which are in the game. Just a couple of information that you can also check on the Hacking Village section in the Deceptive Ops part. The goal of the competition to identify the real services, get the flags, identify the honeypots and deceptions. And for sure that you also have a rule of engagement that it's a normal approach in all the challenges. We know that there are 12 challenges now in Hacking Village. So do not go with those attacks, no sabotage of other players and so on. And at the end, maybe you will have the chance to be the winner of some of the prizes, which we will jointly with our colleague from DefCamp and the KNS, we will allocate. And the prize will be awarded to the first player to steal all the flags on the best or the best ranked player at the end of the competition. But also we have another prize for the best write-up to be presented at the end. That describe each service and if it's a honeypot or not, and the methods used to classify the honeypot. Why? Because this will help us actually to better understand, and will help also our partner, the KNS, to fine-tune the solutions and to increase the outcome. I will kindly invite Andrei Bozanu to take the floor and to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so basically, all the information about threats and threat actors that might help mitigate harmful events in cyberspace is what is called cyber threat intelligence. Basically, it gives a lot of insight into how threat actors operate, what tool set they are using, what method they are using, and all this information is very relevant for a cybersecurity team in order to better understand how their network footprint is exposed to some cyber attacks. There are a lot of sources that could provide valuable cyber threat intelligence informations, such as open source intelligence, social media intelligence, human intelligence, technical intelligence, and intelligence gathered from the deep and dark web. All these sources, as you can imagine, give a plethora of information that needs to be categorized, needs to be analyzed, and therefore needs a lot of work from the analyst side. But in the end, the result of this work is a better understanding of the cybersecurity climate relevant to the cyber internet space occupied by the network that you are trying to protect. There are two types of cyber threat intelligence. It is operational threat intelligence and the strategic threat intelligence. We will now get to the details and the difference between each and the other. Operational threat intelligence is actual technical data. It contains information about ongoing cyber attacks or events and campaigns. For instance, if you hear that somewhere there is an emotet campaign that is cyber threat intelligence, you can gather IOCs, indicators of compromise, and measure in your own network if that that type of activity is also affecting you. Operational cyber threat intelligence gives specialized insights, helping understand the nature, the intent, and the timing of specific attacks. As you know, there are attackers who are very, so to say, picky about their targets. They are in it for the volume. But on the other hand, there are hackers and attackers that are very specific when selecting their targets, and they need to understand their target so good that they spend even months in order to get the best view regarding their target. Both of these types of threat actors can be addressed by different levels of cyber threat intelligence. Basically, operational threat intelligence can be summed up as a sum of indicators of compromise, which are IP addresses, malicious domains, hashes, IARA rules, etc., you name it. And it's based mostly on threat intelligence feeds. Threat intelligence feeds which could be public, could be private, or could be gathered internally. On the other hand, we have strategic threat intelligence, which gives a wide overview of organizations or state level of security and how exposed it is to different attackers, and how appealing it is to different threat actors. Strategic threat intelligence is not that technical, it's more analytical. It evaluates and tests adversary tactics, techniques, and procedures against existing security controls. Basically, you understand the tactics, techniques, and procedures used by threat actors, and try to apply that tool set on your own network, even through red team pen tests most of the times. But also there are different frameworks that can provide this in an automated manner to some extent. And strategic threat intelligence can only be performed by human analysts. So basically, the biggest difference is that the operational threat intelligence is mostly consumed by a machine, by a firewall, by a next generation firewall, by an IDS, etc. And the strategic threat intelligence is consumed by the upper management. Therefore, their content is totally different. Operational threat intelligence is formed mostly by IOCs, which can be easily incorporated into different equipment. And the strategic threat intelligence is in the form of reports which give an insight of the risks associated with certain actions, broad patterns in threat actor tactics and targets, geopolitical events and trends, etc. For instance, if there is a social event such as elections, you can see that there is an increased activity on certain targets. People try to get more informations and try to understand how they could attack the voting system, for instance, or you can aim it. So basically, strategic threat intelligence helps you map out events in the real life to events in cyberspace, giving you a better understanding of what the motives of the attackers might be. So to have a very good understanding of the cybersecurity climate of your organization or your country or etc. or your economic sector, you need to firstly have a very good operational threat intelligence feed. Then that is, of course, analyzed and processed by a very good cybersecurity operations team. The quality of threat intelligence feed is given by a few indicators. There are a lot of threat intelligence providers in the world today, but most of them do nothing else but aggregate open source threat intelligence feeds or private third-party threat intelligence feeds and give it out to their customers. Therefore, it is very important to understand the indicators that mark the quality of a certain threat intelligence feed. So one of the most important indicators is given by the data sources, where the data is collected from. It is important to have the data collected in your geopolitical or your industry sector, in your geopolitical zone, so to say, because there might be attackers who are focused on a certain area of the world or a certain industry sector, and they do not care about other sectors or other geographical zones. For instance, let's say that Chinese threat actors are mostly focused on Southeast Asia and less focused on Europe. Some other threat actors are mostly focused on the Arabic Peninsula. Some others are focused on Europe. Some others on Australia, etc. So basically, if you gather this type of data from areas that are remotely far from your location, it might not be relevant to you, and basically you will have a lot of indicators of compromise that are not actually applying to your cyberspace. Thus, it is very important to understand where the data is collected from, in order to apply it to your specific needs. One other important indicator is the percentage of unique data. As I was mentioning earlier, some paid feeds are just a collection of data that is gathered from other feeds. They basically aggregate a few open source feeds and generate their own threat intelligence feed, but this threat intelligence feed is not the best quality, because the data is not unique. It's data that is imported from other sources, and this data might not be totally relevant to you. Therefore, it is very important to have a high percentage of unique data. Another important aspect is the periodicity of data. How long is the collected data relevant, and if provides strategic intelligence on long-term trends. For instance, if a threat actor was using an IP address or a malicious domain or a malicious software years ago, those IOCs, those indicators of compromise, may or may not apply today. So it just occupies space, and it occupies CPU processing power in your security equipment. Also, it is very important to understand how the collected data gives an insight into the trends that the attackers are using or they are following. It's relevant to understand how the data is aggregated and remaining in the threat intelligence feed, because you do not want to have a very huge threat intelligence feed, because this gives a smaller accuracy in detecting current threats. And the last but not the least important indicator is the measurable outcome. The measurable outcome means tracking the correlation data, the correlation rate, which is actual the percentage of alerts that correspond to the telemetry in a given time interval. In other words, basically, it means that how much of the threat intelligence feed the IOCs are applying to your specific sector, to your specific cyber zone, so to say. And you can imagine that if you have that intelligence feed of 1 million IP addresses, for instance, and every time you only hit like a few tens of addresses, that threat intelligence feed is not a very good one, because most of it, the huge majority of that threat intelligence feed never actually triggers any alerts. So our approach is that we created a network of low, medium, and high interaction honeypots in order to gather threat intelligence informations. Also, we created the network telescope. The network telescope, also called the darknet, allows us to discover attack trends, and it allows us to set up specific honeypots. Basically, a network telescope is a space of IP addresses which is not allocated to any devices. Thus, it never generates any traffic. It only receives traffic from the internet. 99% of the internet unwanted traffic comes from attackers, be it from automated exploit scanners, or simply different malware that mass scans the internet for specific vulnerabilities. And usually this network telescope gives us very good information about what are the current attacks, what services are attackers currently targeting, allowing us to understand what kind of honeypot we need to set up in order to tailor our detection mechanisms better for current attacking trends. The network telescope is very important to create the whole honeypot network, and also it's very important to fine-tune the honeypot network in order to give better IOCs and of course better threat intelligence feeds. The honeypot networks emulate with different levels of interactions, from low to high interaction, general services such as HTTP or Telnet, but also services specific to energy sector, healthcare, finance, etc. But also popular IoT devices and services, and of course industrial control systems, which are a very interesting target for attackers nowadays. Basically, low interaction honeypot only emulates a very small part of the protocol. The medium interaction honeypot actually implements the specific protocol, but not totally. It just emulates some functionalities. Therefore, low and medium interaction honeypots are pretty easy to discover by a versed attacker, while high interaction honeypots are actually mimicking in the very small detail real computers, real systems, and real devices. For instance, even mimicking the user on a certain computer, mouse movement, keyboard movement, documents in the document folder, etc. So making it look very real to determined and skilled attacker, in order to understand better how they operate inside a certain machine. Of course, it is very risky, as sometimes there are cases when attackers might escape from such a honeypot. But in most of the cases, there are different tactics that mitigate the risk of escaping from this type of honeypot. Basically, this approach gives us a very important information, as in knowing what attackers are targeting, what kind of services, what kind of devices, what are the newest exploits, even if they are not public yet. Sometimes attackers are using zero-day exploits for mass scanning. These are rare cases, but when you see unusual activity going to a port that to a service that you know there are no known vulnerabilities for that, you become alerted, and you create high interaction honeypot emulating that service in order to understand better what is actually going on. Also, you need to understand how attackers are operating, how they are picking up their targets, how they communicate with the command and control servers, also what tools they are using, what malware they are using for second stage attacks, what servers, what command and control servers they use for exfiltration of data, and all this information basically gets aggregated into a threat intelligence feed, which is useful to preemptively deter the attackers from actually harming the network and the operations of the certain economic operator or target. All this type of information is very important in order to protect the assets and limit the damage. Basically, every operator which has a footprint in cyberspace needs to have access to this type of data in order to have a better protection and limit the impact of a possible ransomware attack or database breach or etc. Our approach basically allows us to have a custom tailored threat intelligence feed for a specific economic sector. As I was saying earlier, we have honeypots that are specific for the healthcare industry. We have honeypots that are specific for the finance industry. Honeypots that are specific for automotive industry, energy sector, etc. Also, the data we gather is located in Romania for now, and this gives great accuracy to and information about attackers that are targeting Romania and the EU geographical space. And also the indicators of compromise are not kept forever. They have a lifetime. For instance, we keep the indicators of compromise for a period of 2 weeks. So if we do not see any activity in our honeypots from a certain IOC longer than for 2 weeks, we take that IOC from our feed, so that only relevant indicators of compromise are aggregated in the threat intelligence feed, and there is not very much useless information given to the third-party beneficiary. Also, we have custom-tailored high-interaction honeypots that are deployed on demand, as I was saying earlier, as we see different types of attacks and the trends. And these types of honeypots give a great insight into latest attackers' techniques, tactics, and procedures. And last but not least, we have a system of honey tokens. Honey tokens are very useful little bytes of information that whenever they are accessed, they call home, basically letting us know that a certain resource was compromised. Basically, a honey token can be a Microsoft Office document that when it is opened looks very unsuspicious, looks very benign to the attacker, but in reality, in the background, it contacts a server, telling the server what IP was the document opened from, and what application was used for opening it, if it was LibreOffice, Microsoft Office, if it was mobile, etc. Also, Honey tokens can't only be Microsoft Office's files. They can be Active Directory accounts that are very useful to give you information if someone is trying to use a tool such as Mimikatz in order to compromise the user accounts on a certain computer. So if you have if you see a certain user account being triggered, you know for sure that someone compromised that computer, and they are trying to leverage their access through lateral movement. Of course, there are a few other types of Honey tokens, such as application credentials or database entries, but all of them have the most fundamental feature that they are only accessed by attackers, and they call home every time they are accessed by an unknowing third party. Basically, this was our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and please do engage in the challenge, Deceptive Ops.
Thank you so much, Andrei and Cristian. I don't go anywhere just yet. I have just a couple of quick questions for you. So that was extremely interesting, and I think there are a lot of important key takeaways that people can get from the work that you're doing, but also from your approach. So I was wondering, what are some of the skills that someone who has to manage threat intelligence must have?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's very important to have a very keen attention on details, as small details can give a lot of insight into threat actors' motives and how they operate. Secondly, it is very important to be able to work without the necessity of having a reward, because sometimes you analyze a lot of data from sensors, and most of that data is not relevant. But if you keep digging and digging, you will find eventually an event that is so to say very suspicious, and that basically masks other actions that are signaling that attackers are inside the network. Basically, it's very important to be determined. It's very important to be able, without the need to have immediate rewards. It is very important to understand the mindset of the attackers, and also it is very important to have a very high technical skill set in order to be able to create and generate the honey traps, so to say, that might lure attackers, in order to better understand how they operate. And also it's very important to have that technical skill set in order to not let them know that they are being observed.
I can add here some points, if you allow me. Regarding the skill set, I can tell you that in Romania there are universities, technical universities in at least Bucharest, Iași, Cluj-Napoca, Constanța, and we do hope to see soon this Brașov also, in which there are master's programs and also part of the normal years with specific cybersecurity information coming not only from the from the university itself, but from the partners they have, and the partners are normally coming from the private sector, but also from the public sector, as Cyberint and the CERT-RO, the directorate, the new directorate, they are involved in programs, in this kind of programs. And there is another component, and one which we are also supporting. It's called Unbreakable Romania. It's a contest in which we are inviting you, and these kind of skills that you may obtain in order to understand the honeypots, the honeynets, and the way they can be built. And this kind of information can be obtained by participating to the trainings and to follow the challenges in the platform, the CyberEdu platform, which is the baseline platform for running Unbreakable contest. So go in the universities, go in the masters for cybersecurities, be part of the Unbreakable community, and maybe you can be in the position to launch such a nice and interesting solution that can be used by the actors in several verticals.
I think that's very helpful. Thank you both for your detailed answer. I think that this is very helpful, and that people should know that perhaps certain generations have to learn everything by themselves. Just the landscape in the community has changed so much in recent years. Actually, people had to learn the hard way by building things themselves, or by figuring out how these things work together, by trying to kind of dig up information from lots of sources. While today's, let's say, younger generations have the opportunity to just make progress that much faster because there's a support system. There's already so much knowledge out there, but they do need help and guidance to make sure that they use their time and their energy and their resources in a way that helps them make that progress as fast as they can, so they can then contribute to the community as well. So I think that that's a very important point. And speaking of skills and kind of developing adjacent skills and know-how to the technical know-how, I was wondering, Andrei, what are some of these abilities and know-how that you cultivated by, being part of the DefCamp community and by going through Orange Fab? Because we're trying to look at, let's say, the full spectrum of abilities that one needs. Just like Radu mentioned, you also need the ability to communicate, the ability to build a business. So those things kind of work together to amplify the technical expertise and to figure out how to best apply all of this technical know-how to real life business use cases that companies can use. So what are some of those competencies that you developed through these, through the community and through this accelerator?
Well, communication is a key factor every time, because communication is important to let others know what your ideas are and how you see life, but also it gives you the understanding of how others perceive you and your actions. Therefore, having real and honest communication is a key factor in growing yourself in this community. There are people who are very, very skilled in the technical aspect, but they have difficulties in communicating with others, and they have a rather limited growth because they are unable to work as inside a community. And basically, when you are alone on the road finishes much faster than when you travel with a group.
Yeah, we're We're basically moving away from like being loners to like working in packs, like packables getting together.
Yeah, well, you can also be a loner while working inside a pack by having different competencies, different skills, different abilities, and mixing all that together, creating a melange that takes you closer to the goal. But basically, from my opinion, communication is the key factor in order to be able to advance.
Thanks for that. Well, as a communication specialist, I couldn't agree more, obviously. And it is my pleasure that I'm able to contribute to the community and that the community has welcomed me, even though I don't have a technical background. So I think that, you know, the fact that DefCamp truly prioritizes getting diverse people with diverse backgrounds involved is a true testament that they walk the talk, that we walk the talk as members of this community. And I really love how I've seen progress, you know, since 2017, since I first attended DefCamp. And I've been able to follow your trajectory and many other speakers who have like, it's their third or fourth time presenting at DefCamp. It's really, really wonderful to see. I have one last question for you before we get ready for the panel and introduce our other guests. So you talked about, you know, being threat intelligence being very specific to regions, not just industries, which is obviously true. There are barriers that involve language, that involve culture, and many other details. So I was wondering what patterns you've seen changed over the last year and a half in threat intelligence and the type of threats that target European companies and European individuals. We all know, you know, there have been tons of media articles and blog posts and things like that. But I was wondering from your particular experience as you're building the technology to help focus and help make these streams of threat intelligence actionable in a very impactful way.
Well, to be very honest, I don't think the trends have changed so much for the past 10 or 15 years. What actually changed is the capability to detect those types of attacks and have a better tool set and better understanding of the attacks. For instance, in the past 2 or 3 years, there has been a plethora of browser exploits, browser zero days, coming from mostly from Google Threat Analysts group. You have 0 days in browsers such as Chrome, Safari, Firefox, etc. But this does not mean that attackers have recently focused on browsers. It just means that nowadays people have tools to better understand these types of attacks. For instance, Google Threat Analysis Group has a tool similar to DefCamp, which they use internally to detect zero-day exploits. And basically, this is the reason why these types of attacks had been predominant in the past years. What I'm trying to say is that attacks had been constantly the same, more or less, in the past 10 or 15 years. But the tool set that is available in order to detect them has changed and improved over the years. For example, as is the case for the DefCamp, by using machine learning in order to understand the threat that is targeting the users.
I can also add here what I mentioned before, coming from our experience monitoring the Romanian market, and also thanks to our business internet security managed service. The difference, so comparing with the last year, the previous reporting period, there were some changes in the overall volumes of the threats detected, and Also, the changes in the exposed verticals, the most exposed, because for us it's very relevant, the business verticals, also for our customers. So for 2020, transportation was the worst hit industry in Romania, mostly through phishing attacks and crypto malware, while 2021, the retail industry was the most exposed to such attacks. So this kind of insights you can have it also by browsing through the report, which is very relevant. So
that is very helpful. Thank you both. This has been really insightful, and thank you for being so generous and open with everything that you learned and everything that you work on. This is incredibly valuable for everyone watching. It can inspire, just like Radu mentioned in his previous presentation, it can inspire research and all sorts of kind of aha moments that get people on a path to just using what their experience, their skill set, and their mindset for bigger and better things. So thank you both. I hope that people know that you'll still be around so they can connect with you and ask you questions, and who knows how many opportunities.
And to participate to the challenge too.
Of course, especially that.
Thank you, Andra. Thank you, Andrei.